Well, hello friends, and welcome to another Ask ZAC. Today we're going to go down the pedalboard rabbit trail. I had a lot of questions about the pedalboard that I use, and so we're going to talk about that and why I chose these pieces and how I power them and all that jazz. We'll take a little quick pause for the cause. I want to thank everyone that has picked up a mug or a t-shirt. This is the mighty fine Ask ZAC mug. Cool, creamy water. Fantastic. So yes, I appreciate all the support of the show. And if you'd like to support the show, go to askzac.com. We have the store there. I'm sure you can find something that will meet your needs. So anyway, enough of that. Let's move on to pedal boards. So my first pedal board was one of those Boss BCB6s, which was a plastic board that just held Boss pedals, and they were in a row. It wasn't, double tiered, and so I used that for a number of years. Then, of course, moved to Nashville and had a series of boards that either I bought or built. And then, of course, the big revolution came, which was pedal train, and that was one of the first, mass-produced boards you could ever get. Well, I continued to use pretty big boards, and I usually had a board that had, a volume pedal, a couple of delays, a couple of overdrives, a compressor, a chorus, a bunch of, quite a bit of stuff. And then I started doing the True Tone Lounge, and it was really interesting interviewing these guys and seeing the rigs that were coming in. And I think the ones that really kind of blew my mind were John Leventhal and Guthrie Trapp, because they had very small boards and they did a whole lot with them. So that inspired me to be more minimalistic, partially because I was just getting tired of carrying around a big board and having to play the pedal board. Because as nice as it is to have all those different sounds on tap, it's also, you have all those options. And instead of thinking about cool parts to play, I ended up spending more time, tap dancing. And so I was just trying to find a way to simplify things. Also, I tend to play more roots music. I don't really tend to play music that has a ton of effects in it anyway. So I built this board. So first off, I wanted something that was flat and something where all the pedals could be in a row, because I just like that setup better. And I think it goes back to the Boss, pedal board from when I was a kid. And I just like that setup. I don't like having two tiers. I don't like angled boards. Nothing against them, and if it's necessary, I'll do it, but I just don't like that setup. So this is a Mono Light Plus board, and so this was kind of the starting place for it. Then I decided kind of what I was going to put on there. Another big consideration was the patch cables, because I needed small flat cables, and I shopped around quite a bit. And on Sweetwater, I found these EBS cables. These are the gold-plated ones. And the reason I got the gold-plated one was not to be fancy, but it was just, they were the lowest profile ones. And I really needed to squeeze things in tightly, like in between the Tremolo and the Mostortion. I just needed, I needed them to be really low profile and flexible. So I really like these cables. And this pedal board I have had together for close to 3 years, and I've not changed anything on it. So, I haven't pulled anything off of it or added anything. In the times where I do need to add something to it, like another effect, I have one of these True Tone MC2s, and I can pull one of the plugs, attach this, and then I can reattach this one, and I can have one extra. And that way, if I happen to need some other effect in addition to these. So I usually keep a volume pedal and a Boss vibrato pedal or whatever else that I might need for for a gig, but this is the core stuff. So first off is a Polytune Mini, and I like it. It's fine. It was just kind of what I had. I think this is the only one that I'll make some kind of statement about. I think it works fine, but I kind of wish I had one of the Sonic Research little turbo tuner minis, because I really like that tuner a lot. I have the full-size version on my other board. I have a second board that is my mess around board. So it has, it's a Pedal Train Metro 24, and on that one I switch stuff out all the time. So it might have a TC chorus on it, or it might, whatever what. That's my mess around board. And that has the Sonic Research tuner on it. So first up, as far as an actual effect, is the Mirage compressor. And of course I learned about that from John Leventhal. I'd never heard of one before, but he had one on his little mini board, and man, he had a great sound. And of course he's a great player and he has great hands. But here is my dry signal. So this is Danocaster Blackguard with Ron Ellis pickups into this Deluxe Reverb with just a touch of verb from the amp. Let's carefully turn the old compressor on. So it's a little bit more of a subtle compressor. It just kind of smooths things out. It doesn't do the exaggerated, like adding a bunch of sustain or doing that. It's just, and it's a small footprint, easy to use, 2-knob, compressor that doesn't do like a Keeley compressor or a Dynacomp or something like that. It's just a little more subtle. And I like the flashing, well, it's not flashing. I like the little indicator LED, who knows? I mean, it might be just, might just me being mental or something, but I like that. So that's fun. Next is the, Boss TR2 Tremolo. This one is AnalogMan modded, and the reason I have that is, it was used and it was about the same price as a new Boss one, so I just decided to take a chance on it. With doing some comparison with stock ones, it just seems to be a little clearer sounding, and comparing it against older ones, it seems like the old Boss tremolos had a little bit of a gain issue where they would drop in volume when you turn it on, and this one fixes that, but of course the modern ones don't have that problem anyway. So I guess the advantage this has is it's a little bit clearer in its tremolo tone. So here, let's turn this baby on. Of course it sounds like a tremolo. Of course, I'll turn the speed up when I want to get more of like a Pops Staples kind of thing. Then you get more of this. Yeah, so that's mainly the way I'm going to use tremolo. I mean, if I need to, I'll mess with the other knobs, but the speed knob is what I'm going to mess with the most, and just go in between those two, settings mainly. I'm going to leave the tremolo on and hit the old Mostortion, yeah, because I love, going tremolo into drive, because I think it sounds better. Of course, the back pickup. Let's do the neck. Turn the old tremolo off, let you just hear the old Mostortion. Of course, I heard about the Mostortion from Jeff Sin. Yeah, to me, it's just it's got like a nice fizz on the top. Of course, I did a whole episode on the Mostortion. I set it to where the volume level is just a little bit more than bypass, because normally, of course, you're going to use it for a solo, or I can just back off the volume some and clean it up. So so that's the volume backed off a little bit, so I can get. And then I can bring the volume up just a little bit more. So you can do that kind of thing. Yeah. Next up is the old Boss DM3, and I've had this, I've been using the DM3 since the early 90s, and I've had DM2s, and I also own a DM2. And of all the analog delay pedals, the DM3 is kind of my favorite of, I guess, what you would call the less expensive ones. An original Aquapus is obviously a nice pedal, but the DM3 has a fairly clear sound. The DM2 that I have is very thuddy, which can be nice for certain things, but I like the slightly clearer sound that the DM3 has. So let's see if I can turn this baby on. All right. And this is how I normally, set it for, basically kind of a country, Vince Gill, Brent Mason, that kind of thing. And I like, just kind of jumping ahead a little bit, I like having two delays because I can quickly switch between that kind of sound and some in a longer delay time. The other thing that I use the DM3 for is I will turn the repeats all the way up, so I have the maximum number of repeats, and I will turn up the delay time as much as possible. And the reason I do that is to get more of a reverb type effect. I mean, it's not really reverb, but and that's to make me play less, and you're backing up a singer and you're wanting to do something that's a little more ethereal. You can do. So that would be the second way I use the DM3. Next, I'm gonna hit the old Echo Park, and I usually set this on the tape setting, and I usually set it to the dotted eighth, not because I'm going to play like the Edge or something, but I like that subdivision, because it tends to kind of play in between the notes that I'm playing and kind of fill things out, you know, so. So, and then also I'll set it to, you know. Yeah, that would be kind of setting it as the dotted eighth there, actually tapping it in. Yeah, this is a fairly easy to use, easy to find pedal. It's like $100 used, and these DM3s are 150 used. The only effect that's on here that's expensive is this Mostortion, and you can get the Karma copy or other copies for you know, $200. So on this one, I mainly set it on the tape setting and dotted eighth. Then sometimes, of course, I'll switch it to the quarter note, or you know, sometimes I'll set it to the swell setting, and so that way I can kind of get by without using a volume pedal. You know, if I just need it for a certain song. And I really like it for playing those harmonics, because it's hard enough for me. I mean, some of y'all may have really mastered, you know, doing those harmonics, and it's like trying to play a harmonic and bend it and also work a volume pedal is sometimes, you know, really, really hard. So having that, you know, is really nice. So, yeah. So those would be kind of the ways I use my board. And like I said, you know, sometimes I'll add another effect with the MC2 cable, and sometimes I'll bring a volume pedal. Yeah, and let me show you the last thing on it, which is kind of the, in some ways, the heart. And sorry, I have to move these blocks out of the way that are holding this in place. So, this is the True Tone CS6, and you know, this really kind of makes this pedal board possible. You know, of course, I work for True Tone, and this was a power supply, a style of power supply that I had requested, and partially because I wanted it, and partially because I was hearing more and more people that were using a mix of analog and digital pedals like Strymons or HXs and things like that, that really needed isolation. And you get a quieter, you know, you have a lower noise floor with an isolated power supply. So I had requested this type of thing from Bob Wild, the owner and founder of True Tone, and so he did it, and you know, and I was honored that he chose to do it. You know, because again, I had nothing to do with the design of this or anything. I was just the kid that asked the chef, you know, for a chocolate cake with salted caramel icing. But yes, he made this supply, and it's made, you know, this type of board, you know, possible for me, because I really like. If you can't tell from my videos, I really don't like noise, and I really like to have a very low noise floor. And so having this type of low profile power supply made it to where I could really do one of these kind of boards. And I'm grateful for that. So thank you to Bob. And you know, of course, it's got different voltages and stuff. I'm just using straight up 9 volts, but you know, it also can do 18 and other stuff. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed my little walkthrough on my pedal board, and I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.